Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Paraconnection Podcast. You're here with Schuler, and today we have a special guest by the name of Mr. Sharkchild. Today we will be speaking, of course, about the supernatural and all the fun paranormal afflictions that we can encounter as a human. So the conversation with Mr. Sharkchild, it was phenomenal, and it went on for quite some time. Meaning that we're going to need to break this episode down into 2 episodes. Just to kind of put it out there, episode 1 is going to be more so focusing on Mr. Sharkchild and his personal stories and experiences, and a little bit of his opinions as well. And then moving into episode 2, we're going to talk a little bit more on Mr. Sharkchild's perspective and inspiration in writing supernatural horror novels. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get Mr. Sharkchild on the line and get right to it. Sharkchild, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, Schuler.
Awesome. Thanks for being on. You know, before we got the podcast rolling here, we've actually had some technical difficulties. And without Sharkchild tonight, I don't think I would have had the software updated the way that it needed to be. It was a simple fix. He said, let's go ahead and uninstall and reinstall, and I did, and that's exactly what it took.
Awesome.
So, Mr. Sharkchild, I'd like to thank you again for coming on, and we're going to be taking you into the world of the paranormal. And,
sounds good.
You know, let's go ahead and start off with the simple questions of, when you hear paranormal, what do you think of, and where have you started with the paranormal? Have you gotten into it, and if so, where did you start?
Sure, yeah, so... Well, when I hear paranormal, I think my mind goes to the investigative side of things, ghost and things that go bump in the night. So I think that's where I get taken to. I guess in its simplest form, you could, research those memories about Ghostbusters. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's just an image that comes to mind. Obviously. When you go, you can take the serious side of paranormal and realize that there is a true seriousness in finding out whether there are spirits or not. So I guess that's my, take on that. But how I got into it, I would say a lot of my my going into that rabbit hole started just from a base of faith. Being a Christian and believing in God but really the paranormal side of it came from asking questions, just questioning my faith, questioning what I believed, questioning how it is what I'm supposed to believe is true. And that's kind of what set me off on strange paths into more like the darker side of things. I think that it's just really I think it was just the exploration of my faith that it really, expanded the paranormal for me. And as I got deeper in my faith, I experienced some very, pretty weird stuff that I feel like even if I told people who were Christians, they don't necessarily believe me.
Yeah.
And my paranormal side has to do with, I guess I don't know the word to describe it, but it's more of your someone's personal interaction with the spiritual realm.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a terminology for that in paranormal investigation. So it's not necessarily finding ghosts or, seeing if that place is haunted. It's more of your connection to otherworldly things that are tapping into you.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So,
when you say that, I think of livid dreaming, for one.
There you go. That's exactly, because that's what I'm going to get into. That's what
livid.
I've had some of that. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Lucid dreaming.
Lucid. There you go. Lucid.
Not livid.
I was just going to go right with you because I'm you're the professional. No.
That's okay. No, I mess up too. Yeah, lucid. Or even meditation. Would you consider that actually trying to tune into it yourself, make yourself your own personal radio?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's exactly what I think. I think that we are these vessels, and I think that we just kind of I think most people just kind of think you are you, but I think that we have our own type of weird antennas that are going out into the universe, and that there are things out there that can access us and get into our minds, and especially during dreams. Because I don't know if, well, maybe you have had a dream like this or not, but there's one thing to wake up in a dream, and I mean, not wake up in a dream, but realize you're in a dream, realize you're in a dream, and then you can kind of take control of your dream and be like, oh, I'm dreaming, and then have a good old time doing this or that within your dream, realizing that you are, and that's kind of the lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
But I've had dreams where I can't take control of my dream. I realize I'm dreaming, but something else is controlling the situation. That's when it gets scary, and that's where my own kind of paranormal experience begins, or has been implanted.
Okay, so would you kind of consider it even, maybe not so much lucid dreaming, but what about sleep paralysis? Has it gotten to that point?
I've had sleep paralysis before, but I don't think, like, and that is a wild experience. If anyone has had that before, have you experienced that?
Absolutely, Sharkchild.
Okay, yeah.
That I have.
Yeah. It's, for me, mine. Oh, I'll just talk about one experience. But for me, I was in my bedroom with the lights on, and I fell asleep on the bed. And the weird thing for me when I have sleep paralysis, I can see the room that I'm in as if I was like up on the ceiling, but you're looking into the room where you're sleeping.
Wow.
And then like something's approaching you, and you can't, it's just like, it's crazy. Like, I don't know why, it's always something that's like coming for you. And then you just have this absolute terror where you can't, your body is caught between the being awake and asleep. What is it? Your body's asleep, but your mind's awake, I think it is, right? And so you can't call upon your muscles and things like that. And yeah, I've had that a few times where I'm like moaning out into the night, and my wife's like, what the heck is going on?
It's on a whole nother world. That's what's going on.
Yeah. But those are trippy. But again, I don't know if that's like, is that just like a state of the human condition that can occur? Or is that something more, that's what I'm unsure of, because, it's always like the same situation for everyone, like where there's something kind of like stalking. But I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's more of just that, like that play between your body that it gets caught in, and that's what it creates this weird type of fear that's like unnatural. But I've had dreams where I feel like things are trying to push their will into me. This is just a normal dream, and I like realize it and fight against it in my own dream, as if like I'm fighting myself. And I don't know if that's just like a duality of the mind, or if it's something that gets into your dream and messes with you. And then that being said, that kind of leads into like the more physical manifestation of the paranormal for me, where I've had these scratch, and this is what I was eager actually to get onto this podcast and talk to you and see what your take on it would be.
Yeah.
But I've literally been just sitting on my desk. I'll just be minding my business, doing work or whatever. I feel like a slight burn or scratch on my back.
Okay.
And then I'll have these extreme like cat-like scratches on my back, across my back. And it's so funny because they've literally been in the sets of 3 before, but they're kind of wild. They're not just like 3 together. Like they'll skew out and in and swirl. It's it's not, I've tried to do it to myself. I can't do it. And they'll literally leave wounds for 4 days. Like they won't be healed until like 3 or 4 days have gone by. They're literally they're actual scratches in my back, and I have pictures, so I have actual proof of that. And They just appear out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'd like to see that for sure, Mr. Sharkchild. It's That's truly interesting. I have a lot of questions. I'm going to let you keep going, but yeah, just
Yeah, I can talk a little bit more about to give some more.
Please do. Yeah.
Ways how they tie into other crazy things, and then yeah, I would love to hear what you think and have you pick my brain on it a little bit. But
yeah, go ahead.
So that being said, I've had these scratches, and they sometimes tie into times when I've had these weird dreams, or there's weird kind of spiritual tension in my life at the time. And so one of the more like I don't know what the word would be, like one of those more powerful energy type times in your life, where I've had these scratches is when my two sons were, this was the time when my two children were conceived, both my sons, that I would get these scratches. Like, and I literally got these scratches, and I would tell my wife, I think you're pregnant. And then she ended up being pregnant.
Wow.
Like, so I said it before we even did an actual pregnancy test.
Wow. And it occurred both times.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And then it even happened a third time where I think my wife was pregnant for like a couple weeks, and then maybe it didn't stick, or you know what I mean? Like the pregnancy didn't go.
Yeah.
You know. So that happened. So that's where, there's some type of spiritual tie-in to these scratches that I get in my back. And people have brought up about like a succubus or something, because some of my dreams are like these weird sexual dreams where there's, and people are probably like, that's just your own sick mind or whatever. But like,
you're good.
My mind, my dream is trying to have me be like sexual with someone or something. And then I literally have to like resist.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's not like a fantasy or something, you know what I mean? It's like literally like I don't like know. And I'm in my dream thinking this, like having to react to this. And so that's what makes it something more for me. And then, sometimes when I have those types of dreams, that's when I get the scratches. Or when there's other like, conceiving my sons, that's when they show up. So there's, these kind of type of spiritual times is when they show up. Yeah.
All jokes aside too, Sharkchild, when it comes to the incubus and the succubus, those are things that happen. Those are symptoms of having such an entity attached to you. Our dreams like that, or even thoughts, even being conscious, whether it's random thoughts or even actions for some people that may have a more serious case, it's a very real thing. And it's a lot of people, they can't understand that, or they will think, oh, that's just your sick mind, or oh, you're just one of those sexual people. Well, to each their own. Everybody's different. But for people that are having thoughts that they're not comfortable with, or thoughts that they typically wouldn't have, there are things out there, like real entities where they can influence you, and that's considered spiritual oppression. And then ultimately there's spiritual possession, and that's full on, you're being taken over. When it comes to possession, there are people out there that commit suicide, and that's ultimately how a demon or some type of malevolent entity can get the best of you, is people are going to see you commit suicide. Oh, I never thought that they would have done that. They've never talked about this. They've never showed signs of that. Well, depending on what they got into, or if they moved into the house that had this thing there and they weren't spiritually strong enough, or they just ignored it, things can happen. And possession is a very real thing in my personal belief and experience, and suicide is something that can occur. Spiritual oppression is a lower grade possession, and that is where the incubus and the succubus can come in. That's one given example. And you can have the thoughts that you have, you can have the dreams that you have.
Would that make sense that maybe it would scratch me because it's getting jealous, maybe that I'm having a child, or it's reacting in that way? Or
that is a topic very, very high up there for debate. That's very plausible. Yes, it could be jealous. It could also just be a sign of you resisting the dreams and not doing what it wants, and it's being spiteful, so it's going to attack you. That could just be a natural nature of this entity that's attaching itself to you. It's just marking its territory. It's letting you know that it's there. And then, another symptom could be that it's trying to intimidate you. and it's just trying to make you scared, make you weak, make you vulnerable. So the weaker you get, the more scared you get, the less you'll want to fight, and then ultimately you'll be an easier prey to latch onto.
Got it. It's funny because I would consider myself pretty spiritually strong. So I'm more intrigued by all of this than I am scared, you know.
Good. No, that's very
enough,
good.
Yeah, you know, not to say that like lightly or flippantly, but
yeah,
it's true. I'm literally like, what is going on type situation. I've even had these scratches a couple times on my face.
Really?
To the point where I'm just, same thing, I'm at work and I literally show my coworkers, I'm like, look, there's just like a random scratch on my face now.
Wow.
Like someone scratched me. Yeah.
You know, another thing I believe too, Sharkchild, is the closer you are to a positive energy, whether that's, you know, Jesus Christ, God, Buddha, any type of God of a positive nature, if you have a malevolent, dark entity attacking you, being a parasitic spirit, you know, latching on, it's going to attack you. Especially the stronger that you are, it's going to attack you more, because obviously you're going to be a more difficult host. If they are able to turn you, you're going to be a very well-deserved, well-earned companion, I guess, if you will, because if you take all that strong power that you have spiritually as a positive person, and you have this evil entity switch you, you know, they're like, okay, I'm going to make this guy like this, make him like that, make him do this, make him do that, and over time you change, you're going to become more dark. But now you're going to become a very powerful dark person compared to what you were 2 months ago. So for you to actually be strong and to remain on that positive ground, it's very important, and that's very good, because all it takes is a little influence, you know, and the next thing you know, you're a totally different person.
Right. Well, that makes sense. And another point to add too is that this kind of all happened because I'm currently married to this is my second marriage, and I don't have any kids before this marriage, but I was previously married earlier on, and this kind of happened after that divorce. So, and then I've had it ever since. You know, it might be 6 months, it might be 8 months in between, but then the scratches will show up every once in a while. So, and they've been reoccurring now for the last 9 years, I'd say.
9 years.
Yeah, here and
wow.
there. Uh-huh.
Sorry, child. I thought you were going to say 9 months, 9 weeks. Wow, 9 years.
Yeah,
I mean,
2011 or so. Yeah.
Wow.
2000. No, it might have been 2010. So almost a decade now. Yeah.
For you to keep going, this being an ongoing process, you know, where you're dealing with this all the time, that is just wow. Is all I can say. You know,
and luckily it's definitely not like every night or every day.
Good.
Like I said, there's big gaps in between, but it's still every once in a while it happens. It's like, well, there's those scratches. Like, what's going on? Or, you know, what happened today? Was something kind of on my mind spiritually, or you know, I try and play it back. But the most notable were with my sons. That it really reacted, whatever it was.
It's like his intelligence.
Like them coming into existence. It was almost like, and then it was almost like I was in tune with their spirits coming into, and this is a whole nother, you know, topic that you could have to discuss, but it's like, I think about it, and it's just, I love thinking about it, but it's, you know, when a child is born, their spirit's not here, obviously. At some point, it has to come to this world.
Yep.
It wasn't here. At some point, it has to come to this world, you know. And the night when my first son was conceived, I remember waking up in the middle of the night, and it got super cold, and it was just like super cold, and it wasn't like a cold night. And then when I woke up later, it was a normal temperature. And then that was the same day that I got the scratches. So I put it all together, and it was like, that's when I said, I think to my wife, I said, I think you're pregnant. And then I literally used that date as that was the date I told my wife. And that's literally the scientific date they put it into the system.
Wow. Coincidence? I think not.
Yeah.
Man.
So it's pretty wild. It's pretty cool.
It is. Yeah, to think on that level. And I was about to ask you, too, how long has this been going on for? And for you to have these intelligent reactions and to have certain time frames in your life, it seems to be more livid, I guess, more active. It makes me wonder what exactly this thing is, what it could be.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It baffles. I mean, that it makes sense that it might be that type of. The succubus is the female, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I kind of lead towards, just because of the dreams that I have where I feel oppressed, basically. That goes with the spiritual oppression. It really that's the way it feels in the dream, where you don't want. It's not like a nightmare. It's not like that fear. It's literally like you're being abused. Is more of a word. Like literally, it's crazy.
Is pushing you down, spiritually. That's its goal. And for you to just react to the word oppress like that, it really kind of puts one piece of the puzzle into the next, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It makes you wonder.
Have you had many, have you talked to a lot of other people with this type of experience, or not often, or?
Personally, Sharkchild, not directly with a succubus or incubus. There's a possibility it could have been, but they didn't feel comfortable enough to be like, I feel like that's what it could be. I have had people talk with me about doppelgangers, obviously demonic attachments, sometimes just good old natural malevolent attachments of like an angry old man or a serial killer. It's still not a good thing to have, but they're not as potent in my mind. But yeah, no, you're honestly the first succubus story that I've had, one-on-one for someone to be like, yeah, I really feel like it's this, and everything that you're describing to me, that's what it seems to be. And going back a little bit, rewinding here, roughly 2010 is when it started, and it was a little bit after your divorce of your first marriage, maybe a little over half a year. So going back, if you don't mind me asking, with your first wife, your ex-wife, was she ever into anything abnormal, do you know of, or into the occult, or did she seem like she had some type of negative energy to her?
There was definitely a shift in energy that took place, like in her, like, you know what I mean? Imagine you thinking the person you're with loves you, and then all of a sudden they just flipped, like a switch just flipped. And they tell you that they don't love you.
Gotcha.
It was bizarre. It was bizarre. I mean, it was all for the better, because I'm with a much better woman now.
Of course.
What I mean? So, but yeah, like it, but it's not like, I don't feel like anything should have come from her. I feel like it's whatever this entity is, it just honed in on me in my situation in the aftermath. That's what you know what I mean? That's what I kind of feel. But yeah, but she was an odd cookie when it all happened. So yeah.
Well, with that being said, I'm just over here trying to take the pieces. And I apologize if I come off a little serious. I have my investigator part coming out right now.
No, sure.
So whenever the shift happened, it just kind of happened unnaturally, not progressive, not like, over a course of 6 months, you guys kind of treat each other a little less of a good thing. It just happened.
Yeah, it was literally, I came back from the very first book show I went to, or convention, Trinity of Terror in Las Vegas.
Awesome.
I remember I came back from that, and that's when she just was like, I don't love you anymore. So it was just very abrupt.
So do you know that if she ever dabbled in any occult rituals or activities or Ouija boards or anything like that?
The only thing that was like the first thing she did before that happened was that she went and saw a psychologist. So unless the psychologist exposed her to that.
Yeah. And when it comes to people of the mind, I mean, if you can understand the science behind the mind, that's one thing. And I mean, that takes a really smart individual. But to be able to also understand the connection with the spiritual side of a human, a psychologist would be honestly the perfect person to understand both fields. And we don't know that person. That psychologist very well could have been someone that dabbled in the occult, or maybe they didn't, and they didn't mean to expose her to something, but then she kind of got curious, and who knows what happened. But as you said, it was for the better. But what I want to kind of get into here is, after her, do you think this entity came from her? Do you think it comes from the home that you live in, or the land, or is there something you could have done that could have opened a doorway? What do you think, Mr. Sharkchild?
So I didn't bring these details into it, but I've lived in several different locations, so it has nothing to do with where I am.
Okay.
It'll just be with me.
Okay.
Yeah, that has not, like, I've gotten the scratches in, I'm in Southern California, in Calabasas, Rancho Cucamonga. It doesn't matter. At work, it doesn't matter.
Wow.
Yeah.
So technically, we can title you as a haunted person.
There you go. Am I your first haunted person?
No.
Your first haunted person investigation.
I'm sorry to say, you're not the first haunted person I've spoken to, but you would be the first haunted person to investigate with me.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've not actually had the opportunity or the pleasure of having someone allegedly being haunted, have a intelligent entity follow them on an investigation with me. I would find that extremely intriguing to see how that could change the environment of an investigation. But I've not yet had that opportunity, though.
Yeah, because that's what I think, that just like I felt kind of when the spirit of my son came to the world, like I feel like I'm spiritually inclined to feel certain things. So yeah, and who knows, maybe that's why it picked me or whatever, this force. But I don't know. It's just great. It's pretty strange.
It really is. Yeah, it's the biggest question is, why not before your first marriage? Why not during? It was after, and why at the specific time? Yeah, when it happened. Like, what?
It kind of makes sense, because that was the most emotional trauma that I've been through. I had this immense amount of anger inside me that it couldn't be applied to anything. You know what I mean? You just had to sit inside you, because you couldn't change the circumstances.
Yeah. So
it was kind of like that. Then, after a short time, I got back into my positive self. I'm a super positive person. Very, very, very positive. Always smiling, always laughing. So I don't know if that's the type of person of an entity like that would want, but
yeah, speaking with you, it's you are a very positive person. You're very open-minded. You're very open to conjecture of different topics, and you're very easy to speak with. And yes, I feel that more positive people are easier targets, and I feel like they are more prone to the possibility of becoming a haunted person, have an attachment. But rewinding back, and this isn't just for you, this is for anyone out there, when it comes to you experiencing a very negative, especially anger-filled, hateful, not so much sorrow, I mean, it can work that way, but it's easier whenever it's anger and hate. If you have all that built up, and a lot of it, and you're a person on a very powerful, very well-inclined spiritual level, you mix both of those together. It's like taking Mentos and Coke and just letting it go. The best way I can make an example of this is, you're at a Walmart and everybody wants to go to a Walmart, right? It's got the food, it's got the toiletries, all that stuff. Doesn't matter if you're a serial killer. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're average day family Joe, if you're the rich, if you're the poor. Everybody goes to a store such as a Walmart. And whenever you were so angry and you're still this very strong spiritual person, you kind of opened the door to a Walmart. You became a beacon. And for all we know, that's all it took for this negative entity to be like, I want that guy. There's something about him that I sense, I know I can grab, I know I can take it, and I'm going to fight for it. I didn't see it until now. And it could have been it wasn't until you had all that anger, and then your spiritual energy being so powerful, it just blew it open, kind of like a bug trap, And I mean, that's my theory. That's one theory, and I'm sure there's plenty of others out there. But that's one way to look at it, Sharkchild. It's scary, but it's interesting. But moving forward with it, have you thought of any ways of removing this entity, or do you want to, or?
I haven't even thought about it necessarily. It hasn't it hasn't intervened in my life in any way that's tangible beyond the intrigue of the scratches and some of those dreams. But I mean, if there was a way, I guess I would be open to it, to explore, for sure.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, there's plenty of ways. And, I'd be more than happy to share those with you. I'd even be more than happy to help you, even though we are long distance. When it comes to spiritual help, it doesn't matter how far you are. It's a whole nother game of help. But if you're open to different methods and to try things, I've spoken with several people before that's had malevolent attachments to their home, regardless if it's from the territory, the land, or it's something that they could have got themselves into by playing a Ouija board, going to an investigation, bringing back an item, anything. It is possible to get rid of these things. I'm not saying that it's going to happen overnight, and I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, because if it's a demon, that can be tricky, but it's very possible. It's always possible to get rid of a spiritual attachment,
And I think another one of the reasons why this entity came after me was because of the spiritual experiences I had leading through my first marriage and then into the divorce, because I feel like I had some very peculiar moments that go kind of just in dreams too, also in dreams that I've had. I don't know if that, also opened me up, because I had this kind of, like you talked about, your third eye kind of opening kind of thing, kind of experience with dreams. So
would you consider it like an epiphany?
Like an epiphany, yeah. I feel like, and this is crazy. I don't talk about it all the time, but I even had this dream where I literally, in my dream, I feel like it was God that lifted me up into. It was one of those dreams where you read about in the Bible where someone kind of ascends into the heavens.
Yeah,
I had one of those dreams where I ascended into the heavens, into space.
Really?
And there was these planets, and they kept spinning around faster and faster and faster. And I just, for whatever reason, I knew that was the pain of Satan. That was Satan's pain and his chaos. It was just this chaos inside him. I don't know. It was just that was one of these types of dreams that was just wild. And it was just beyond me. You know what I mean? It's just
Wow.
beyond you as a person to have yourself in a, we all have wild dreams, but this is just it's just one of those dreams where it just, I don't know. And then I remember telling Satan, this is weird. We're sharing this on this podcast, but I remember telling Satan that he's loved.
Yeah.
As weird as that is, I remember saying that to him, saying God loves you too.
Yeah.
And that kind of from that day, everything kind of changed for me with my faith too. From that period in time, as far as understanding everything, because we always just talk about these evils, but it's they have knowledge of everything else that's going on too. And I don't know. And sometimes it's are they just in pain? Are they in torment themselves, and they just have no other way to lash out?
Yeah.
I'm not explaining this well, but
no, I'm following you. And I know each person listening out there, and for anyone that would hear something like this, everyone can have a different way of understanding and intercepting what you're saying. But I get it on the sense of, you said, the spinning planets was the chaos. That was the pain, the disruption, the confusion of, Lucifer's being, his mindset. And as you're, depicting the other spirits that follow him, such as demons and whatnot, perhaps the reason why they act the way they do is because they're also in pain. And they don't know any other way to express themselves or show themselves. And the wild thing is, from my knowledge of demons and Lucifer, they're very smart. They're very intelligent. They know a hell of a lot more than we do. But for the mere fact that it seems that they're still confused on the sense that they don't believe that they can be loved. They don't believe that they can change. They don't believe that, they could be accepted into the light, the more positive energy. It's like that's not an option for them, even though it is, but that barrier is just completely in front of them and they do not see it. But yet they're knowledgeable and intelligent on all these other levels besides that one. But yet people like you and me, this middle existence, angels, demons, and you got humans, we understand you can be accepted. Even killers, even, people that are robbers or that make really bad decisions, the belief is that you can still be accepted. You can still go into a positive mindset. But like you're saying, these dark, evil creatures, they just don't see that. And that's mind-boggling. If that theory is clear, and true, that's mind-boggling. It really is. Yeah.
So, and that's, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head with kind of what I was going with this. And that's what kind of started my new belief. And that is that if God exists, he would never have created a hell for one person if one person was going to end up in a place of torment, he wouldn't have made us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He wouldn't have made us in the first place. Forget everything. That's pointless. If your God is love and you're talking about an entity of love, there's no way. There's just no way. So
man,
so
deep thoughts.
Like that, those are the types of dreams I had that literally molded kind of my own spirituality. And so I'm in a place where I feel like God will always give everyone a chance. I feel like hell is kind of just your way of saying, you know what, I'm not ready for God. It's not that it's a terrible place. It's just you saying you're not ready for God.
Yeah.
But at any time, any place, in death or not.
Yeah.
Because I know, and this is me being very, I guess it's blasphemy.
No, you're fine.
I'm being blasphemous right now because any Bible thumper would be like, no way. Because it's believed that you need to accept Jesus into your heart before you die to go to heaven. But that's I believe that God will extend his hand at any time, even after you die and you're just in pain, that you can go to the light, as you said. You can accept a different fate at any point in time. So
yeah, no, I totally agree with that, Sharkchild. And I feel like, a lot of the more traditional Christians, Catholics, Lutherans, anybody, that follows the Bible and original text, they would consider this blasphemous and, new age, if you will, new age. And, and no disrespect to anybody out there. This is all strictly discussion. And, I never shove, my religion down upon anyone, just as well as you're so open-minded to even speak with me on this topic. That right there is phenomenal, that you're that type of person too. And to our listeners, to ourselves, I feel, people might label me as, a new age Christian or whatever, but I don't consider myself a Christian. I don't consider myself any type of religion, specifically for the mere fact that religion is man-made. Even the Bible itself, it's been handed down, it's been molded into multiple versions. Do I believe that the Bible itself is completely true? No. Do I feel like it's completely fake? Absolutely not. I feel like there are bits and pieces that are true, and there are bits and pieces that have been fabricated over the years, because thousands of years ago we weren't around as far as we know. And it's kind of been like a telephone game. It's been passed down, and more religions have been brought out, more people have been divided. Ultimately, the plan of evil is successful so far. People are divided. People hate each other over religion. One sole book, whether it's the Quran or it's the Bible, it doesn't give you all the answers. I feel like all religions could ultimately give us the answer if we came together and we put aside our differences. But that's something that isn't achievable at this current time, even though it's been thousands of years. But it's ultimately life is a lesson. and I consider myself a spiritualist. So I've talked to all sorts of people on the paranormal team, outside the paranormal team. I've talked to Satanists, Christians, Catholics, Methodists, you name it. I've even had them on the team investigate with me, and that's the part that I love to share. I've shared the stories so many times, Sharkchild. I've had Satanists on the team. I've had atheists on the team.
Wow.
And just the fact that I'm able to work with these guys, I'm not trying to change their beliefs or, anything of that. But for the fact that they take their time to hang out with me and the team and to search for things that they possibly don't believe in or even care about, that right there shows how people can come together no matter what. And that's kind of what I go for as a spiritualist is, yeah, I believe in God. Yeah, I pray. Yeah, I believe in Jesus Christ and the heaven and hell. But I'm not going to force that on you. And let's not even talk about that. Let's find a common goal, a common ground, and that is to find some invisible people. And let's freak out together,
Right. Yeah, sorry to go down that path there, but it just kind of came out.
No.
Hopefully your listeners enjoy the discussion.
No, absolutely. Don't be sorry one bit. Honestly, I love it when people bring religion and spirituality to the podcast, because I feel like the more that we touch base on that with more people, eventually one day we might be able to have this bigger community than what's already out there of people that come from all different congregations, and we can all meet in the middle and shake hands and be like, you know what, you're this, I'm that. That's cool. Let's look for a common ground that we both can believe in and that we both can experience. And if that's, finding a ghost or finding a UFO, doesn't matter what you believe in. If it's there, it's there,
I'm with you on that, because, some of the greatest community I felt is just with all types of people coming together. And for me it was just one time, just like all random guys from my water polo team were coming together, and I was on my guitar and we're just singing songs, and it was just like I felt more community there than being in a church, or you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
So I'm with you. I think that the true meaning of people coming together can be is experienced with having all that diversity.
Yeah, I agree with that so much. And not to get political or anything, but it's kind of sad when you have different countries, different traditions and cultures that are driven by one government, and it separates the world in so many different ways. It's not even just spiritually or just physically, but when you have a government or you have a religion that gets in between different people, they can't come together unless those individuals think outside the box for themselves. And they're like, you know what? Let's put aside politics. Let's put aside our traditional religions. Let's talk with these people, understand each other to the best degree. If we can't understand them, that's fine. Maybe we can find a common ground. And I've kind of noticed in the past, 5 years, 10 years of my time as I've experienced the paranormal and I've kind of expanded with my team, it seems like people are becoming a little more open-minded and accepting of each other. Obviously, there's still a lot of barriers out there, a lot. But I've noticed there's been more acceptance and understanding, at least on the spiritual aspect, of people being more open-minded and not so narrow-minded. There we go.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I feel like I think it's a generational shift for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing. Yeah. And I feel the same way as you. I talk about faith here and there, but I'm everyone's friend, I love getting to know anyone and what they go through or what their passions are. So just like you, that's all I was going to say.
Absolutely. No, I'm glad you did, because, I think it's important for anyone listening to a podcast or, anyone that's talking to someone about the paranormal to understand, the unification of a people, whether it is because of a certain belief or, that common goal. It can really make or break a people, and it can change a lot of things, even the world itself.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
So, Sharkchild, before we go on to the next section here, I was curious, going back to the alleged succubus experiences that you've had.
Yeah.
You say that you've had lucid dreams, you've had, obvious scratching on your face and your back. Have you had any other type of experiences from this entity?
I think that's it.
Okay.
I've had one other weird experience in a condo that I lived in, but I don't think it had anything to do with this entity. I think it might have been separate.
Okay. I would like you to share that real quick if you don't mind, but before you do, I wanted to try to wrap up on the succubus here.
Yeah.
How often does the attacks happen?
It's very infrequent, so it could
Okay.
be like twice a year, once a year.
Gotcha.
Or it could be more frequently, like 4 times a year. But I say per year because that's how infrequent it is. You know, it's not a monthly occasion or a weekly occasion. There's definitely more months in between than anything else when it happens. But it does show up.
Gotcha.
It does consistently show up. It's just there's big gaps of time.
Well, they do say, the people of the paranormal communities, they say that when it comes to a spiritual entity, they have unlimited time. We do not. We have to eat. We have to go to work. We have schedules. They do not. They have all the time in the world. So if they want to sit back and be dormant, lie dormant for a while, not do anything, they will. You know, it's nothing to them. But for us,
Right.
you know, every day, every week, every hour, year, it can mean a lot to us, you know, in the physical world. But for them,
Right.
they can lay back and, like, you know what? I'll mess with him next month. Or I'll mess with him next year. He won't even expect it. I don't know. I don't understand why. I don't think anyone I've spoken to personally has understood this method or theory of why spirits, you know, choose to do what they do when they do. But, yeah, the time is just unlimited for them. And for us, it's kind of precious. I hate saying that, but yeah.
So is that typical that with spiritual oppression that it would happen in large gaps of time in between occurrences, or?
Well, from what I've experienced and the people I've spoken with, Sharkchild, it's all different. It's all based down to each. Yeah, it varies to each individual case. Sometimes people do have patterns. It's every third of the month, or it's every single night, or it's like you, where it's once this month, twice next year. And why? I don't know. It can all depend. Maybe somebody played a Ouija board on a certain day of the year, and it happens, you know, every day of that month or every day of every 10 years. Some things can just be sporadic. You know, with whatever you're dealing with, it's honestly the first case I have personally learned about, you know, of it being so sporadic like that.
Got it.
Most people I've spoken to, they've had a entity that's typically on a better pattern schedule than that. You know, it's once a week, or it's, you know, every night or something. And it's like, okay, we have something to work with here. This thing is all over the place. And to me, that kind of validates that it could be a demonic entity, because it's more so demons that have these weird sporadic patterns. You know, they don't care, and they do that on purpose to keep you on edge, because you won't be able to jot down when they're going to attack you next or how they're going to attack you next. And that could just be a strategy that they use to mess with you, you know?
Right. And I feel like they try and get I feel like it tries to get invested into me during those spiritually pivotal times.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like. Like, I feel like when there's like this wave of like the spirit that kind of comes over me, like those are the times that it might show up. I don't know why. It's like you had told me about it before we hopped on the podcast, but that red and blue orb, you know?
Yeah.
It's almost like when my aura maybe becomes more positive, then it maybe feels like it needs to strike with negativity.
Yeah.
That could be a thing too.
No, that's very true. Yeah, when it comes to different energy auras, you know, I mean, I've heard different things. Green auras, green orbs, energies. It can represent like a neutral balance. I've heard also it can represent demonic. Red obviously aligns with demonic or evil. Blue, white, that's more positive, more heavenly, holy. And it can all transfer into different stuff. But yeah, comparing it to the story I had with my red and blue orb back in Crown Hill, way back 2011, it does kind of make you wonder, how you can align these type of, I don't want to call it natural phenomenon, but, there you go. Supernatural.
And spiritual warfare.
Spiritual warfare.
That's what I've always, learned of it. It's being called, as far as what that might be. Yeah.
No, that's a great way to describe it. It is spiritual warfare, and with what you're being, aligned with, it seems like there's a tug of war going on. This thing, wherever it came from, whatever its mission is, it's obviously taken assent to your energy, to your intentions, and perhaps it did catch on to you at a weak time, and ever since, it now knows what type of energy you possess, where you stand, and the sole mission might be to turn you the opposite way, to gain you onto their side for whatever reason. And, there's a lot of people out there, I'm sure, that are thinking, well, what do you mean spiritual warfare? Well, what do you mean trying to take your energy and all that? Well, to put it in a nutshell, and some people might shake their head and some people might agree, it's all about good and evil. It's just like going to war with another country or another people. There's a gain on either side, and the spiritual warfare that I'm familiar with, and I'm sure Sharkchild, it's probably the same thing. It's angels and demons, allegedly, and it's to gain that level, that ground of dominance, to keep the evil down, to, oppress them in the sense of protecting the innocent and the good and the pure, and then the evil obviously wants to take over the good because they're greedy for power. They're hungry to take over innocent and things that they don't have or that they no longer possess. And every day in this physical world, we just kind of get caught up with, filling up your car with gas, going to work, paying the bills. We don't have time to necessarily think about the afterlife, the real life. This physical world to a lot of people is it. This is the real life. But when it comes to the discussions that you and I are having, with what you're dealing with, with the succubus possibility, and then the things that I've seen with the orbs clashing, it kind of ties into a very plausible scenario of spiritual warfare. And we're kind of getting a taste and being in this middle ground of experiencing that, being pulled in, if you will.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. We're caught in the middle, or we are the good that either side has to win. Like you said. So
yeah, because I guess the way you can look at it is we're kind of like that empty vessel. I know we've talked about vessels before. We're not so much empty, but we're that neutral vessel of it could go either way. You could become blue, you could become red, and you're kind of white in the middle, or a gray. So yeah, it's
and on the game board that is our world, we're the pawns. We are the people that can influence what happens here on this world. And so, either, as you put it, an angel or a demon.
Yeah.
They can't do anything directly. They have to use a person. So they're fighting over us.
Kind of like playing chess.
Yeah.
So, real quick, you had another story for us, Sharkchild, with the condo, correct?
Yeah, right. So, and this just might be, it literally might just come down to something dying in the condo, and then these were this was the aftermath, but it's still just a bizarre experience, and it's just a fun, I don't want to say fun. It's fun for me because I get a kick out of the stuff, but an interesting memory. But so I think that something died, like either in the attic somewhere, but we didn't really have an attic, so it might have just been in like the boards above, in the architecture or something.
Okay. But
I didn't smell anything, so I can't confirm, but it just seems that that's the most likely thing. But we're just this was my fiance at the time was living with me, but we were just doing our day to day, and then these flies just started showing up on the curtains inside. So it wasn't like things were coming in from outside.
Wow.
And these were like they're big, slow flies.
Yeah.
So they're easy to kill, but they come in mass numbers.
Yeah.
And they just lined the curtains. And they were all by, I think there were two major windows that they were at, one in an office and then one in the family room, and they were just all over the curtains. There was ones alive, and then there were dead ones just lining the carpet underneath the curtains.
Wow.
So that happened for like a few days, where like, and literally you would clean up all the flies, like kill the ones there, clean them up, and then like an hour later, I'm trying to remember. I remember it just being a very short duration. They would just be back, totally replenished.
Really?
On the curtains,
wow.
Yeah. And I was like, what? So this happened for like 3 days, and then they stopped coming back. And then I think it might have been a week. It was maybe a week later. After this, it was either a week or 2 weeks later. I think my fiance, my current wife now, but my fiance then at the time, we went away on a trip, or we're gone for a couple of days, and we came back, and then on the carpet underneath the windows were yellow jackets.
Really?
Dozens of dead yellow jackets. We didn't see them alive. They were just there, dead.
Oh my God,
So,
Sharkchild.
I don't know if the thing is, I've never heard of anyone talk about this ever before, so I don't know if that's the stages of if something dies. First there's flies, then there's yellow jackets. But yeah, it was just, imagine coming into your home and just having piles of yellow jackets on the ground by the windows.
You are literally giving me cold chills, because from my experience and my research, obviously flies kind of ties into demonic entities and, evil energy. And I've also been told by a couple of other fellow paranormal enthusiasts that yellow jackets, I've only been told about yellow jackets, not wasps, not bumblebees, not hornets, specifically yellow jackets. They are also another sign of evil.
And yeah, it was 100% yellow jackets. You know, not any other kind of that, wasp or bees. It was specifically yellow jackets. Yeah.
And I've also been told by the same people that it's specifically yellow jackets will be found dead in the home, while flies are going to be alive. And obviously, those type of flies.
So you've had people tell you this about dead yellow jackets?
Here's another thing for you. Yes, I have. In a location that we investigated, we actually found a yellow jacket in that location. And just one. I mean, it wasn't anything phenomenal of like 30 of them or anything. But this place, we've dubbed it the Avon, Indiana Apartments. It was a bunch of old apartments that never got finished. They started being built. They stopped building them, and there were also empty plots where they were going to put new ones. Never finished them, just left them. And surrounding these apartments was a giant cornfield. And the allegations of it from locals that we learned is that land where the apartments were at and where the cornfields were used to be Native American ground. And apparently when these apartments were being built in the early 2000s, the construction crew members would have that stereotypical, oh, my parts are missing, my tools are missing, ladders would fall over, they would be pushed down some stairs as they're building it. The old-fashioned creepy construction worker ghost stories. Allegedly that's why they stopped working on the apartments. They couldn't finish it because they couldn't keep crew members there. No team wanted to be there. They didn't want to take the job. And so we've had some stuff happen out there in the fields, not so much in the apartments, but we've had rocks being thrown at us, like literal rocks lifting up off the ground and hitting us in the chest or the head. Not dangerous.
No way.
Oh yeah, not dangerously hard, but I mean, come on, that's freaky. That's not normal stuff.
It still won't. It still won't just. You won't just get hit by a pebble. Like when do you just get hit by a rock?
And the real scary thing about that whole location and the rock throwing part is I remember I have a picture from that location. We call it ghosts. I'm just going to say it blunt like that because I have cold chills. I'm going to choke on my words if I don't say the watered down words. So we took a picture and we actually caught 3 apparitions, 3 ghost-like figures in this picture. Super scary, super creepy. Totally believe something happened at this location. Even if it's not Native American, we found a human jawbone out there in the field. There's actually a dirt mound in front of the cornfield where the construction crew members were like moving stuff. So the allegations of that place having burial sites, whether it's Native American or somebody might have been, killed out there and dumped, God only knows what. I truly believe that there are graves out there. People were.
So you specifically found a jawbone?
Yes, sir, I did. Yes, sir, I did.
Wow, what a find. We did. That's a good find.
Yeah. We left it there, and again, this was in 2012, 2013 is when this was. We were still amateurs. We've been in it for a couple years. We didn't call authorities. We probably should have. But being young still, we didn't really understand what to do. We didn't know how to go about it. But for a fact, thinking back to it, and even then, you could tell it was a human jawbone. The teeth, everything, it was human. And then we would have, freaking rocks thrown at us. And like I was saying, the scariest thing about it was when these rocks were being thrown at you, they were being thrown at you from a direction where your friends were not. So I would be there with from anywhere from 4 to 7 people. Uh-huh. Everybody would be behind me. Or the person that I'm with that gets hit with a rock, they would be next to me. I would be next to them. Everyone else is behind us. We would get hit from in front of us towards the wooded area in the cornfield. That was the scary part.
What was the size of the? Was it just like an inch wide rock?
Oh yeah, very small. You pick it up with your thumb and your index. Nothing crazy or sharp. But it's just kind of like people are throwing rocks at you, like, "Hey, I see you. Hey, I'm here."
But there's no one there.
But there's no one there, and we had flashlights, so we flooded the area, and there were no animals. There were no people screwing with us. I mean, it was terrifying. But we're rabbit holing. I'm sorry. Back to everything that we were talking about before with the bugs, the insects.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That same location, inside one of the apartment complexes, not 200 feet away from where we had the activity, we found a yellow jacket dead inside of this apartment complex. And, the time that we were investigating this location when we first learned about it, it was during fall, mid-fall time. So for the most part, I don't know everything about insects, but I wouldn't imagine a yellow jacket being out and about, during October, November-ish, late September, earliest. Yeah. And this yellow jacket was fresh. It wasn't decaying. It hadn't been, eaten on. It was well preserved. If it died during the summer, I don't know what it's made of, but it was well preserved. It looked like it was freshly placed there or died. But back to your story with the yellow jackets and everything. I mean, not to be, to make you fearful, which you're not, but it most definitely, that to me says demonic. It says evil, just from what I've been told and what I've experienced.
That's crazy. I never realized that was a thing. That dead yellow jackets specifically.
Yeah.
And that specifically they're dead, not even alive.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's we didn't find one that was alive. We never saw any of them alive. Like, that's where I was like, what? And same thing, they look freshly, all of them.
Yeah.
And this just wasn't just one. This was like literally maybe 30 at the window.
Wow.
Like, I had to clean them all up. And
sure.
They were like bright yellow and black. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Wow.
Like it had just happened. So it's like, if it just happened, or at least if it had happened throughout it so long, it's like there had to have been one alive.
Yeah.
None
of them were. That's the freaky thing about the theory on the yellow jackets. And I mean, there could be stories out there where yellow jackets are alive. The only thing that I know about yellow jackets being alive and representing evil and all that. Well, I don't think they were yellow jackets. It might have been bumblebees or, honeybees. But if you remember the old cult classic horror movie, Candyman.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Whenever he would come around, bees would swarm the area. People would start noticing bees around. That was like his little icon before he came in and killed whoever he was going after. And obviously, right. Candyman was technically a demonic entity that you could just see on screen, but the idea behind Candyman is he's a malevolent, killer entity of the spiritual world, and his entryway was through bees or yellow jackets. And I kind of feel like that's where they got it from. And if that's the case, obviously your average audience isn't going to look at that and be like, oh man, that's so true. People like you and me that experience it or that look into it, it's like, oh wait, that movie came back out in the 1980s and whatnot. Who's to say how long yellow jackets have been representing evil? Maybe this is something that dates back to the Bible times, if not earlier, or whenever yellow jackets came in. I don't know why.
I'm gonna definitely research that whole yellow jacket thing after our discussion here.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then jumping into the fly thing, that's kind of an old-fashioned, flies represent death, and they eat on anything that's decaying and anything disgusting like manure and whatnot. And even in the movie The Exorcist, flies, they're everywhere, and flies are representing the entrance of like Lucifer or Beelzebub or something demonic. And I actually I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, it was just late last year, my girlfriend and I, we actually kind of had a little fly incident ourselves here. And it's later in the year, so it's not super hot. We don't leave our windows open or anything. We don't have any cracks or holes in the walls or anywhere easy for an insect to get through. But for about 2 or 3 days, same amount of your time, it wasn't, I'll say this much for a fact, I can't remember the days. It wasn't as long as a week, but it wasn't as short as 2 days. And we had flies inside of our current home. And there'd be no more than maybe 2 or 4 flies at a time. It wasn't like a swarm of them or anything. But, they were the bigger ones and the slow ones that you could easily kill. And I killed every one of them. But it's like when I killed one, another one popped out of nowhere. Kill that one, 2 more pop up. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So, it went on for a couple days. And I haven't investigated in a while at this point. I don't play Ouija boards. I don't dabble in anything. I don't ask for it like that. I don't have haunted objects, as far as I know I don't. So I don't know why these flies are coming around.
And if it was like, nature or whatever, it would have persisted beyond the few days that it occurred for you. It would have just been like ongoing and be like, oh, okay, I guess it's just this time of the year or something.
Exactly. Yeah, it just came out of nowhere and then it just stopped. And it's later in the year too, Sharkchild, so that's what kind of threw me off.
Right, because they don't like the cold.
Yeah, and these guys were just doing their own thing, and they would be in different parts of the house. They'd be in the kitchen, they'd be in the front room, they'd be in one of the back bedrooms, they'd be in the main bedroom. So it's like they didn't congregate in one area, and there was no more than like 4 at a time. But it happened for a couple days and it stopped. I have had a couple weird instances here in this home, since my girlfriend and I moved in. She's had a couple too. So is this place haunted? With the things that we've had flies come in. We've had vivid dreams of, an entity or a man standing over the bed. I've had, that was her dream, not mine. I've had a experience where I was sleeping in one of the back bedrooms, not the main bedroom. I'd fell asleep, and I woke up abruptly to the doorknob rattling. Somebody took the doorknob, basically, and they started shaking the hell out of it. Well, I got up. And I wasn't afraid. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. Nothing. I just got up. I'm like, okay, I guess somebody needs me. I felt super neutral. Opened the door. And before I touched the doorknob, this is important, it stopped. Opened the door seconds after. I didn't wait. Just opened it naturally. Swung the door open. Nobody was there. It was just me and my girlfriend, and her dad actually came by and hung out with us for that night. He stayed the night. And so I went in a little bit. I looked in the restroom. Nobody was in there. My girlfriend was asleep in the main room. She passed out there. Her dad was in the front room. I'm like, okay, he's asleep. Everything's turned off. Everyone's deep asleep, too. It's not like they were just, they could have been fake sleeping. I checked everything. And all the doors are locked. All the windows are locked. And there was no one else in there. And I'm just like, what is going on? So I close everything up and I go to sleep, but that's never happened again. And my girlfriend's dream only happened once. The fly thing only happened for that one period of time. So, do I believe this location's possibly haunted? Yes. But again, it's got really weird patterns, kind of like your possible succubus. It doesn't happen in, certain increments or certain days or times. Different things happen. I don't know if somebody passed away here, if there's a demonic attachment, if it could have been a spirit just passing through, if that's even possible. But yeah, random stuff like that. But back to your flies and the yellow jacket, I feel like there might have been something there. And that's not the home that you're currently in, right, Sharkchild?
No. Yeah, that was several years ago.
Okay.
A different location. And it only happened that one time. The one time with the flies for a few days, and then the one time with the piles of yellow jackets.
Same location, same window?
Yeah, same windows, right.
Wow. Did you guys have anything else that happened there other than that?
So before that, we had one weird experience. I remember just lying in bed with my fiance, and you just felt like an energy shift. And it seems so silly talking about this, like people are like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
It's like, are you guys crazy? It's like
we're crazy on another world.
There, and there, and the fan. So I'm trying to remember. It was either the fan was making a noise like clicking, like click click as it was spinning, or it wasn't making a noise. And then all of a sudden it did the opposite. So I'm trying to remember if it was clicking and then it just went silent. But I'm thinking it might have been silent and then it just started clicking like when at the same time. And then in the corner of the room, there was just like this darkness, and it was darker than shadow. It was so dark that it was like, it made us literally like stay, like we didn't want to go back to sleep because we didn't want it to go away, and we were just staring at it. We didn't want to turn on a light or anything, and we're just like, why does it seem so dark? Like it was a void.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like this, and that was it. That was all we experienced. But it was just very, like, you just felt like, my fiance at the time felt it too. It's like just like this feeling, and then the sounds changed, and then like the sights kind of changed. So just kind of everything kind of bended then. And I think that was prior. I don't want to say they're connected necessarily to the flies, but I think that was before all the flies happened at a later time. And I couldn't tell you the time in between or how long it was. And that would, that might say whether it was relevant or not, but
same location.
It was just that, and then the flies and the yellow jackets.
Okay. Was it the same location, Sharkchild?
Yeah, that was at the same location.
Wow. Yeah, and to say that it's not connected, I mean, I wouldn't be able to comfortably, say that for sure. But I mean, with it being what we would consider a shadow person, it may not be of human origin, of course, but typically an entity that's seen to be blacker than black, as it's described, it can be known as a malevolent entity. And especially with the follow-up, no matter what the length is, the follow-up of that same location having flies and yellow jackets, that to me just seems very outstanding to be possibly a demonic entity. Now, with all your experiences, either you're like a magnet and aka a sensitive to the paranormal world, or you just have a really bad luck of getting these haunted locations, man.
I don't know. I just don't know. I feel like it's more, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's me. I feel like it's just because I'm like spiritually open. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows though? Who really knows? I feel like that I've never had any type of situation like that at that location. So that might have been more location specific. Yeah. That was in Calabasas, California.
Okay.
So I don't, who knows what that land was. I haven't researched what that land used to be used for or whatever back in the day. So
let's just be honest. California as a state itself, it's in this aspect, it's no different than New York. Those are two of the most used, most abused, and most historically chained locations of the United States. I mean, all states have history, but when you're talking about like the East Coast and West Coast, California, New York, and Pennsylvania, they take the cake. And then, I mean, come on now. the Old West, the Revolutionary, Civil War. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of big, tragic things that's happened in those specific locations. Again, all 50 states, they have their pieces of the pie too. But when it really comes down to like that 90%, okay, 80% of Big Bang, it's California and New York.
Got it.
And I mean, there's just so much that could have happened in that area, you know, regardless if it's 1800s, 1700s, you know, it'd be truly interesting to be able to get that research. Any location is, but man, like that, to have the experiences that you have, knowing the origin of what these things could have been, really makes you think.
I need to go back to, and I'll try and dig up some pictures.
For sure.
I can send you pictures of the scratches, and then also I'm pretty sure I know I have pictures of the flies and yellow jackets somewhere. So,
well, Sharkchild, I have to say, you know, following this podcast, I would like to get you on at a later time. And, you know, if you have research or you have other stories or, you know, other topics you want to talk about, I think that'd be phenomenal for you to, you know, share that with us, and we can kind of compare and contrast with what we've already spoken about.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
All right, that was episode 1. I truly hope you enjoyed the conversation and all stories shared. A quick shout out to Mr. Sharkchild. Thank you for taking the time to help create such a great episode. And if you enjoyed today's episode, wait until next time. We're going to delve in a little bit deeper with Mr. Sharkchild's perspective and how he created his own occult horror universe, the Darkverse. And of course, we'll also highlight where you can find Mr. Sharkchild's works and learn a little bit more about the Darkverse overall. So as we come to another end, as always, remember you can reach out to us directly with questions, concerns, or even your own stories at pilt.com. Now be sure to keep an eye out for our next episode, where we follow Mr. Sharkchild through his Darkverse on episode 2. Until next time, stay frosty.